and maybe you can explain it to me, Kyle, is that when you own international assets and you become president of the United States, are you just supposed to sell everything?
Yes! Yes!
Wow. Wow.
Kyle Kulinski going up against Charlie Kirk is always satisfying to watch. And right away, you can see the difference. Kyle Kulinski comes in with arguments, facts, logic, and Charlie Kirk shows up with the same tired MAGA talking points. So we're going to take a look at these clips of Kyle Kulinski and Charlie Kirk. I have my own thoughts to share on this as well. Let's check this out together.
It's the lowest it's ever been in recorded history in the black community. And that's something really to be said, Kyle.
I don't play identity politics, so don't bring up black or Asian. Just tell me what the actual rate is.
Look, these are numbers from the federal government, perfectly fair. So how about this? How about urban unemployment is the lowest it's ever been?
That's another word for black.
Hold on, I want to get this philosophy really quick.
Respond just real quick. The effective rate went from 23% to 12%, so that's not true. The effective rate went down.
You mean corporation or individual?
Corporate.
12% for corporate tax rate?
Yes, the effective corporate tax rate went from 23% to 12%.
It should be 0%, but yeah, that's perfectly fine.
So, a very unpopular position. Please proceed.
And I'm happy to elaborate on it. Listen, just because someone got rich does not mean they went around and stole the money away from people. Wealth creation in a market society requires innovation, entrepreneurship, something that makes every single person in this room richer. So when someone gets rich in a market society, they did not pillage and plunder and get that money with putting guns to people's heads. Instead, they were creative, they were entrepreneurs, and they were innovative, something that should be rewarded.
Well, allow me to steal from your favorite, well, he's president now, but wrong. So, look, I just want to test your theory real quick on wealth creation here. So, I'm going to give you two facts. I just want a yes or no answer. Jeff Bezos has over $150 billion. There are 50,000 homeless veterans in this country. If you could take 1% of his money to end homelessness for veterans, would you do it?
I hope he gives it voluntarily. I will not put a gun to his head.
That's a no.
I'll tell you why. First of all, that's a false choice. You look at the entire political kind of system and you say, okay, there should be more government action because we must look ourselves first and foremost as a collective. Therefore, Jeff Bezos, the only way he was able to get that amount of money was eventually try to exploit people over a longer period of time. I look at that and I say, wow, that is a beautiful thing that someone is able to create that much wealth for that many people. And guess what?
And not pay his people a living wage until we forced him to.
Hold on a second.
We'll let Charlie finish and then you'll have a response. We'll move on.
I will take a definitive stand against the demonization of wealth creation in our country. Because
nobody's doing that. You're talking to yourself.
Well, your preferred candidate says billionaires should not exist.
You know what that means, Charlie? Somebody could have $999 million and they're still really rich and they're going to be okay. And we can give people health care and we can give people college.
So, Kyle, here's the question I have for you. Do you believe when people create a certain amount of wealth from Facebook or Google or Apple or Home Depot or Amazon, the companies that everyone in this room use, Coca-Cola on down, do you believe that's inherently exploitation, or do you believe they had to get that through voluntary transaction and enriching people all the way along the way?
I don't believe it's inherently exploitation, but I also believe we need rules and we need referees. And I also think I see shades of gray where you see black and white, and your whole thing is like, oh, the free market is so great, it's so wonderful. No, hold on here, because I'm actually the real moderate on this, because I think sometimes the answer is the free market, and sometimes, yes, the answer is government. Government is not inherently evil either. Government has done a lot of good things. I mean, so look, that shouldn't be controversial. If you believe in having the military, you believe in the government. If you believe in hate roads, you believe in the government.
I believe that Colin Kaepernick had a right to be a fool and kneel during the national anthem. Absolutely. Being civilly disobedient is a right. But you know what? I also have a right to call him unpatriotic and disrespectful for kneeling during the national anthem. What I just did as we try to tribute to our best.
Excuse me, why is it that when left-wing people protest and when they dissent, all of a sudden it's unpatriotic and you hate America? Why can't it just be, no, these are my ideas and I think these would fix the country even if you don't agree? See, I'm willing to grant you that whatever you say, you actually are saying it because you want to fix the country. But why is it that you don't give lefties that respect? All of a sudden when somebody on the left, you think, oh no, it's because you hate America. That's why you're saying X, Y, and Z.
And the reason that Colin Kaepernick was being selfish is during a moment when you're supposed to be somber and reverent, when you're supposed to reflect on the blood and the sacrifice that veterans put, he decided to make the cameras point at him, not point at the veterans, not point at the flag. It was selfish for him to do that, to try to misrepresent a highly complex issue that is criminal justice reform at a very bizarre time to do it, during the singular time in a sports ceremony. We take a moment to remove our hats and put our hands over our heart to remember the veterans that gave everything so that we can live in the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world.
Charlie, whenever there's something that happens, like in Ferguson, Missouri, there's a police brutality case, and then people riot. What do people like Charlie say?
Destroy buildings? Yeah, I'm going to speak against that.
Yeah, but what do you say when that happens? They go, you know what? My only issue with these people is if only they would protest police brutality through peaceful methods, I would be okay with it. And then Colin Kaepernick does exactly that, and you
the right to do that. I also have a right to critique his decision. And so
right, and
the mayor of Baltimore during the movement, the mayor of Baltimore, while all this was happening, remember she said, we need to give our people space to riot. I mean, there's nothing admirable about destroying property in your own community when you're trying to protest injustice or brutality. I'm not sure what kind of argument
Charlie, listen, the point, right over your head. I agree with you. Rioting is bad. That's why I think what Colin Kaepernick did is good, because he's protesting through peaceful means.
Of course. And there's a reason.
Kyle Kulinski lays it out perfectly here. And this is something people like Charlie Kirk never want to address. Every time protest comes up, Charlie Kirk immediately jumps to the most extreme example: looting, rioting, burning buildings. That's all he talks about. But when Colin Kaepernick, an athlete, peacefully kneels during the anthem, suddenly that's a problem too. So what's acceptable then? What kind of protest would Charlie Kirk ever be okay with? The truth is, Charlie Kirk and people like him don't support protest at all unless it fits their narrative. And usually that just means cheering for whoever's already in power. And Kyle Kulinski is right to bring that up, because when the protest is coming from the left, even peaceful, even respectful, Charlie Kirk still loses his mind. But if it's a crowd wearing red hats storming the Capitol, then suddenly it's just patriots expressing frustration. These are the same people who, if they were around during the Boston Tea Party, would have been calling the protesters thugs and terrorists for dumping tea into the harbor. That's how fake their love of freedom is. Kyle Kulinski calls that out clearly. And then Kyle Kulinski flips the conversation and exposes the complete myth of trickle-down wealth. Charlie Kirk keeps pushing this fantasy that billionaires are job creators and their wealth somehow benefits everyone. Kyle Kulinski says, okay, then explain West Virginia. Explain how coal made people like Jim Justice filthy rich, but West Virginia is still one of the poorest states in the country. The wealth didn't lift people up, it got extracted. The money left, and the people were left behind. That's how the system works. These coal barons got rich and moved out. They're not reinvesting in the communities they profited from. Charlie Kirk doesn't want to hear any of that. He'd rather just repeat slogans about free markets and hard work than actually look at the results. But Kyle Kulinski brings it back to reality. And the reality is, Charlie Kirk's defense of the ultra-rich has nothing to do with fairness or growth. It's about protecting the top, no matter how badly they screw over everyone else.
The Democrats will not denounce Antifa. It's because if you want to see the face of the Democrat Party, I'll show it to you. They're wearing a mask.
All right, Kyle gets the last word on that.
Charlie, you're not debating the Democrats. You're debating Kyle Kulinski. If you just asked me, it would have been very simple.
What do you think of Antifa?
Do I denounce Antifa? Yes. I denounce political violence. But I think it's really interesting that you started this whole rant by acting like political violence is only on the left. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
So show me a singular instance where there are people wearing MAGA hats waiting outside of a leading Democrat.
I'll do you one better. How about a guy named Caesar Sayoc who murdered people with a fucking MAGA hat on?
Again, the Democrats swing and miss. For 2 years, I was promised some sort of big, huge bellwether revelation of the Mueller report. Oh, Mueller is coming. $30 million taxpayer-funded investigation, and they found absolutely nothing. And what did they do as soon as the Mueller investigation ended? As soon as the Mueller investigation ended, they went to the Ukrainian investigation. This goes down to two very simple things. Number one, they have not accepted the democratically elected president of the United States who won an election he was not supposed to win. Number two, they hate Donald Trump a lot more than they love America.
Just so you know.
I'm not saying you, I'm saying the general thing.
Listen, thank you for inviting me to the Charlie Kirk monologue night. I really appreciate it.
I'll let you finish.
Right. Okay, so let me respond to that. I'll sum up what he just said in a really simpler way, and you won't have to sit through it all. Donald Trump, good. Democrat, bad. Very high-minded, Charlie. Thank you very much. So anyway, here's the difference. I'm willing to admit when Democrats do something wrong. What Charlie Kirk will not admit on this stage here tonight is that Donald Trump owns a hotel in Washington, D.C. Yes. And oh, would you look at that? The Saudi government just happened to funnel him $300,000 through that hotel. Oh, would you look at that? Donald Trump just approved a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal that goes to Saudi Arabia as they're committing a genocide in Yemen. Now, hold on. Now, I get the sense that if I gave you that exact set of facts and it was the fucking Clinton Foundation, you'd be pretty fucking pissed off.
What's the difference with the Trumps? The day that their father became the president of the United States, they stopped all international business deals. They did not sign one new deal. The only international business that they did were deals that were on the books for 5+ years more. Kyle, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
I know, Charlie. Nice political talking point you got there. Would you get that from John Kasich? So listen, here's the bottom line, and I hope everybody looks this up. You know how much money Jared and Ivanka made since Donald Trump became president? $83 million in 1 year. If you think there's nothing wrong with that, I got a bridge to sell you.
So these were previously owned assets. They did not sign one new deal since they were in the administration. Point to me one new deal the Trump family signed since Donald Trump.
You don't make $83 million in 1 year without being a grab bag of corruption. You know this.
Called the Kushner companies that own some of the most valuable assets in New York. So that income was deals that were already signed and revenue streams that were already established. The Bidens, the big difference, as soon as his dad became president, he said, it's money time. He went to Burisma. He went to Hungary and did some very questionable legal deals that are just coming out right now. And he got $1.5 billion from our greatest enemy, the Chinese, into his own fund because he took the Chinese on Air Force 2 halfway across the world. That is morally objectionable. If the Trumps went to China and came back with $1.50, the media would publicly crucify them. They have done nothing of the sort.
As you respond to that, let's get to the second part of the question, which is how do we actually fix this? How do we prevent kids of any president, regardless of their political party?
The way you fix this is you have intellectually honest people call out corruption where they see it, whether it's on the Democratic side or the Republican side. Somehow I can see it on both sides, whereas Charlie Kirk thinks Daddy Trump did nothing wrong.
Look, I'll ask you again, Kyle. Show me one deal that they signed since they became president.
My dude, I don't know if you're listening or not, but I said very clearly,
can you name another deal?
Okay, are you going to let me talk?
Just name a deal.
Are you going to let me talk? You don't make $83 million in 1 year when Daddy is president as an oopsie.
Right. So their income the year before that was $90 million and $95 million. They did business before they went into the White House, so they did not sign.
No. This is the cute little trick. This is the cute little trick. Because as soon as I say, well, hold on now, it's proven that he took $300,000 from the Saudis while in office. He's like, oh, that doesn't count either. So whether they're in office or they're out of office, it doesn't matter, and it's not corruption. Well, isn't that fucking convenient? That's super convenient, isn't it?
Here's the other thing that really fascinates me, and maybe you can explain it to me, Kyle, is that when you own international assets and you become president of the United States, are you just supposed to sell everything?
Yes!
Wow. So let's build up.
Kyle Kulinski just keeps pressing and Charlie Kirk keeps dodging. Kyle Kulinski brings up Jared Kushner making $83 million while Trump was in office, and Charlie Kirk brushes it off like it's nothing. But now we know that $83 million was just the warm-up. Jared Kushner walked away with $2 billion from the Saudis. That's not just suspicious, that's blatant. That's corruption in broad daylight, and Charlie Kirk still defends it like it's just normal business. Kyle Kulinski asked the obvious question, should a president sell their businesses when they take office? And the answer is yes, of course. You don't get to be president and keep running your private empire at the same time. That's basic ethics, even kindergarten level ethics. You can't be negotiating foreign policy while collecting hotel payments from foreign governments. But Donald Trump did exactly that. And Charlie Kirk acts shocked that anyone would even think it's a problem. Kyle Kulinski breaks it down clearly. There was no law forcing Trump to sell, just a norm, a tradition. But that's the whole issue. Trump didn't break the law. He broke the guardrails that used to hold powerful people accountable. And people like Charlie Kirk cheer that on. Because the second you ask for basic accountability, the MAGA response is always the same. Oh, you're just out to get Trump. No, Kyle Kulinski isn't out to get anyone. He's pointing out how insane it is that a sitting president's family can rack up hundreds of millions while supposedly serving the public. Charlie Kirk keeps trying to distract. Show me a deal they signed. Show me a paper. But Kyle Kulinski already answered that. You don't just accidentally make $83 million while your dad is president. You don't accidentally get $2 billion from the Saudis unless people believe you still have influence. And let's be real, if it were Hunter Biden, Charlie Kirk would be doing 19 segments a week on it. But because it's Trump's inner circle, suddenly none of it counts. Kyle Kulinski is exactly right. If Donald Trump wanted to keep making money, he could have just stayed in business. Nobody forced him to be president. But he chose to take power and keep the profit pipeline going at the same time. And now, years later, it's worse. Trump's out here pushing meme coins, NFTs, anything that makes a buck, and still people like Charlie Kirk act like he's some kind of martyr. It's absurd. This is why Kyle Kulinski stands out in these debates. He doesn't just bring facts, he brings the ability to cut through all the noise. And Charlie Kirk, all he's got left is deflection and double standards. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with Kyle Kulinski here, or are you still riding with Charlie Kirk? If you're into these kinds of debates and breakdowns, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.